Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to NATO's first annual Cyber Defense Conference. Whether you're here in person or joining us for this session online, it's great to have you with us. I'm Melinda Crane, and on behalf of our hosts and organizers, NATO and Germany's Federal Foreign Office, it is my great honor to accompany you today as moderator. Cyber threats to the security of the alliance are complex, destructive, coercive, and becoming ever more frequent. That is a direct quote from 2021 from the NATO Brussels Summit communiqué. Developments since then, as you know, have only borne out the urgency of that warning. In connection with the terrorist attack by Hamas and the Israeli response, as well as throughout Russia's war of aggression on Ukraine, state actors, criminals, and others seeking to incite unrest are relentlessly weaponizing the digital realm to attack critical infrastructure and to wage hybrid warfare. This summer, NATO's Vilnius summit endorsed a new concept that builds on the comprehensive cyber defense policy that was announced in 2021 and aims to bolster cyber resilience by promoting civil-military cooperation in peacetime as well as during crisis and during conflict. How to put that aim into practice is our key topic this afternoon and throughout the day tomorrow, as we mark the exact halfway point between the Vilnius summit and next year's Washington summit, commemorating the 75th anniversary of the alliance. Allow me a very quick look at what's in store. We'll begin in a moment with words of greetings from our hosts. Directly thereafter, a panel of ministers will exchange views on how best to integrate political, military, and technological efforts to strengthen cyber's contribution to both deterrence and defense. Later on, ministers will repair to the Foreign Office's Crisis Response Center to conduct a closed scenario discussion. While here in this room, a panel of industry and NATO experts will explore the alliance's role in promoting cooperation with the private sector to address malicious cyber activities. Tomorrow, our keynotes, high-level panels, and breakout sessions will take us on a deeper dive in regard to key topics, including integration of civil, military, and technological capabilities, proactive cyber defense, and lessons learned from Russia's war on Ukraine. Now, let's get started. Our host, Germany's Federal Foreign Office, spearheaded formulation of the country's first national security strategy that was officially adopted this summer. It reflects a strong focus on cyber resilience and on close cooperation with partners to build capacity. And just one example of that, Germany has been putting such cooperation into practice with very generous cyber assistance to Ukraine. It's an honor to hand over to Germany's Federal Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock. The floor is yours.
Secretary General Stoltenberg, Excellencies, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start with three images, three incidents. Hundreds of men, women and children crammed around one satellite internet terminal, desperate to call their loved ones after weeks of uncertainty, suffering, to tell them one thing: I'm alive. This is an image from the day Russian troops finally withdraw from the Ukrainian city of Kherson exactly 1 year ago. Russian occupiers had taken down all the communication infrastructure before the day they left the city. For many Kherson residents, the internet terminal on the main square put up by the Ukrainian armed forces was the first opportunity in weeks to go online. Only 1 month ago, Hamas terrorists brutally entered Israel and committed unspeakable atrocities. At the same time, hacking groups tried to paralyze missile warning apps used by Israeli civilians. The aim? To send erroneous warnings on the app and to sow panic on the day of Hamas' atrocious attack. In July last year, a hacker group affiliated with Iran attacked Albania's government websites and administrative platforms, paralyzing key governmental functions like electronic immigration control for weeks. These examples, and I'm sure all of you could cite many more, show that cyber attacks are not a game. They have an impact in the real world. They threaten lives and economies. They are a danger to our democracies and the rule of law. And as the AI revolution moves forward, the tools used to carry them out are becoming available to almost everyone. On top of that, cyber attacks are by now a well-established business for organized crime to steal data and to extort money. A business that is sometimes heavily intertwined with state actors, as we can see in some of these crises around us. Therefore, we as NATO, we as allies, we as democracies have to keep cyber defense at the center of our attention. Cyberspace has become our society's nervous system. And just like in the human organism, malign intruders sometimes create havoc long before even realize it. International law is fully applicable in cyberspace, but it is broken every day. We therefore cannot sit back and watch this ongoing erosion. We need to build a globally respected state practice of responsible behavior in cyberspace. As NATO, we need to constantly adapt and evolve our strategies to contain these challenges. In 2021, we recognized that cumulative cyber activities can be considered an armed attack. And we build on our national commitments by strengthening our cyber defense pledge at the Vilnius summit. The pledge means that we need to be ready to handle malign cyber incidents in times of peace, crisis, and conflict. We have to bring our systems up to speed. Those our governments use, but also those our industries and citizens rely on, from telecommunication to energy, infrastructure, and even games. The Cyber Pledge requires us to invest in prevention and to invest in our national resilience on a daily basis, because resilience is the main building block of deterrence and defense in cyberspace. But our commitments to prevention also requires us to be able to actively defend ourselves in cyberspace if necessary. Germany's national security strategy, launched, as you have mentioned, this year, envisages to create a dedicated entity especially for that. We are even considering a change to our constitution to make it happen. Proportionality and our responsibility under international law will remain our cornerstones in active cyber defense. As an alliance, we need to continue to work hard on making our commitments in this area more tangible. But NATO has not only evolved at the level of concepts and national commitments, we have also enhanced our cyber posture in concrete terms. In Vilnius, we launched NATO's virtual cyber incident support capability. That became NATO's cyber emergency number. It enables allies to seek immediately help from one another. Implementing this in Germany, we have just created a national mechanism involving all relevant agencies, from our Federal Office for Information Security to the Bundeswehr. With this mechanism, we can ensure that we are ready when our allies need us or when we need our allies. NATO has made considerable progress on cyber defense. But for the alliance to stay on track and for cyber to make a substantial contribution to our joint deterrence and defense, we need to do more. In my view, 3 points are crucial. First, we need to bring together all the dimensions. We, as allies and NATO, need to build a culture of cooperation beyond our bureaucratic silos. This is what many of us and many of you discussed in the run-up to the Vilnius summit. And this is why today, this afternoon and tomorrow, we are coming together in this integrated setting for the first annual NATO Cyber Defense Conference with leading representatives from the political, but also military and technical communities in our different countries. And this is important, as well as from the private sector. Against this backdrop, I'm joined today by colleagues from the German Defense and Interior Ministries and the Vice President of our Federal Office for Information Security, and many colleagues also came from the different agencies, from the different countries, where I'm very thankful for in these busy times. The conference will be a platform for experts discussing across these dimensions and will serve to foster cooperation routines in our alliance. Because we have to invest in our deterrence by cooperation between these different fields, public and private. I mentioned the experience of our Albanian colleagues last year. That is a case in point. When hackers attacked the Albanian service, the military domain was quick to activate cyber defense. Technical experts managed to restore the functioning of government systems. This made a quick political response possible. Together with its allies, Albania attributed the attacks to Iranian state-linked actors and sent a clear diplomatic response to Iran. Integrating the silos led to effective cyber defense. However, cooperation is not only necessary within and between NATO allies, but also with private companies. I'm grateful that many representatives are present here today because your technological ingenuity is the very basis of our strengths in cyber. By building a culture of cooperation, we prepare the ground for better sharing of information and best practices. And this brings me to my second point. When one of us faces a cyber incident, we need to swiftly inform all of our allies. Cyber attacks know no borders. What is already happening in my country might still be preventable for my ally. More information sharing will also enable us to jointly attribute cyber attacks. Attributing a malicious cyber operation to a state is a national prerogative. But if we coordinate our activities in this regard, attribution could become a more powerful deterrence tool. In order to achieve deterrence by attribution, we need to work on expanding existing channels of confidential communication between allies. Attribution increases the political cost of state-sponsored cyber attacks. It sends a powerful signal to other potential attackers. They will be named and they will be held accountable. In July 2022, NATO, together with the EU and other partners, managed to attribute a large-scale hacking attack targeted the Microsoft Exchange software to the Chinese government. That was only possible because we coordinated our efforts, pooled our knowledge, and acted then quickly in unity. This brings me to my third point. In order to maximize the effectiveness of our cyber defense, we need to invest in our NATO partnerships. We need to make sure our activities complement those of other organizations such as the EU. We know that if our close partners are vulnerable, we are vulnerable too. This became clear when Russia, on the day they started its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, attacked the Viasat communications network. It not only caused an information blackout in parts of Ukraine, the effects spilled over into networks all over Europe. Renewable energy providers temporarily lost contact with more than 3,000 wind plants all over Germany. As an alliance, we can achieve resilience by partnership, by helping our close partners defend themselves, by supporting Ukraine with its cyber defense, and also by that supporting and protecting ourselves. Germany therefore provided Ukraine with 10,000 ground stations for an internet satellite system similar to the one used in Kherson. And we are contributing to Ukraine's cyber capacity by training cybersecurity personnel, as are many allies in this room. Undoubtedly, we also have much to learn from Ukraine in this regard. At this point, our Ukrainian friends probably have more experience with cyber defense than all of us combined. Investing in our partnership, therefore, also means building up our own capacities. Cyber is nothing new. But unlike the Ethiopians from maybe 40 years ago, the advent of cyberspace did not usher in a world where military force has no role to play and conflicts are fought merely in front of computers. In fact, reality turned out to be both more complex and more concerning. British General Sir Patrick Sanders recently said, and I quote, "You can't cyber your way across a river." End of quote. That is obviously true. Nonetheless, modern armies are digitized armies. Digital radios, digital drones, communication satellites, GPS and encryption, all of this is cyber in an army crossing a river. So while you cannot cross a river using just a laptop, cyber effects may still prevent you from getting there. Cyberspace is the nervous system of our digital world. It is all interconnected. This means that if we, as an alliance, ensure our deterrence and defense posture in cyberspace, we protect and defend many parts of our economies and societies at the same time. Our energy infrastructure, the personal data of our citizens, the integrity of our democratic voting procedures. Together, we have all the tools to be successful. To build a culture of cooperation beyond bureaucratic silos, in order to unlock cyber's full potential for our joint deterrence and defense, to improve our information sharing to strengthen our deterrence by attribution, and to bolster our resilience by investing in our partnerships beyond NATO. This is what lies at the heart of the annual NATO Cyber Defense Conference now and in the upcoming years, to protect our citizens from harm in the material world as well as in the cyberspace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Baerbock, for that strong message. Distinguished guests, few warnings have as pointedly underlined the importance of cyber and the gravity of threats in the cyber domain as the NATO Secretary General's clear statements dating back to 2015, quite early in his first term, that, I quote, cyber attacks and hybrid warfare can potentially trigger an Article 5 response. And that warning has, of course, been repeated by him and others a number of times since then. Now serving a second term at NATO's helm, Jens Stoltenberg continues to make cyber resilience and situational awareness a priority. It is a great honor to have Secretary General Stoltenberg with us. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a great pleasure to welcome you all to this first NATO Cyber Defense Conference and to do so alongside Minister Baerbock. And dear Anna-Lena, it's great to see you again. And thank you so much for your personal commitment to NATO, for your strong message and also your leadership in providing support to Ukraine, and not least your leadership on cyber, demonstrated by the fact that Germany, the Foreign Ministry, is hosting this Cyber Defense Conference here in Berlin today. Germany has always been a highly valued and very important ally for NATO. Germany makes important contributions to our shared security in many different ways. You lead one of our battle groups in the Baltic region in Lithuania. You have presence in many different NATO missions and operations, including in Kosovo. And you invest more in defense, and of course you welcome the Zeitenwende, the 100 billion extra for defense, and the very clear commitment to spend 2% of GDP on defense from next year and to sustain that commitment. That will really strengthen our collective defense and make Germany an even more important ally. And then we also welcome that Germany demonstrates leadership and take new initiatives, including not only in addressing cyber threats and cyber defense, but also, for instance, on how to protect critical undersea infrastructure, where Germany took an initiative a year ago, which we have followed up in NATO to further strengthen what we do to protect critical undersea infrastructure. So Germany is a very important ally for this alliance. Then on cyber, the fact is that it is impossible to imagine any conflict without a cyber dimension today. And cyber attacks can be as damaging and as dangerous as kinetic attacks. So that's the reason why NATO for many years have taken cyber threats very seriously. Before we had actually only 3 domains: air, sea, land, air, sea and land, and then we added cyber as an independent military domain to demonstrate how important we now assess that cyber threats are, and the importance of strengthening what we do to defend against cyber threats. We also agreed some years ago, as was referred to in the introduction, that cyber attacks can trigger Article 5, which is the promise at the heart of our alliance, that an attack on one will be regarded as an attack on all, one for all and all for one. Because cyber attacks can be as damaging as kinetic attacks. There are many things that NATO has to do to be vigilant, to be ready and to continue to adapt to an evolving and changing security environment in cyberspace. But today I will focus on three things. First, rising strategic competition in cyberspace. Second, better protecting our people and networks. And third, working more closely with the private sector. So first, strategic competition. Authoritarian regimes, including China and Russia, are challenging our interests, our values and our security, including in cyberspace. While China is not our adversary, it does not share our values, and it is determined to shape the future of cyberspace in its own image, with little transparency and no regard for human rights. Beijing uses new technologies as tools for repression at home. And it is exporting its technologies, including facial recognition, as instruments of state control to countries around the world. It is also proposing new internet protocols at the United Nations to challenge the very notion of a free and open cyberspace. When Russia mounted its full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year, their tanks and troops were supported by massive cyber attacks, including one that took out communications for Ukraine's police, military and intelligence services. Ukraine was able to weather many of these attacks, not least because it has worked closely with NATO allies for many years to strengthen its cyber defenses. We share real-time information on malign activities. We train and exercise together, and Ukraine is a member of the NATO Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity. So cyber is driving strategic competition and is part and parcel of modern warfare. This leads me to my second point. We need to better deter and, if necessary, defend against cyber attacks. Often these attacks are hard to detect and even harder to attribute. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. At the NATO summit in Vilnius, allies agreed a new concept to enhance our cyber defense. Politically, it means sending a strong message to potential adversaries that there will be consequences if they attack us, and giving SACEUR the authority to respond when he needs to. Militarily, it means having the required capabilities for defensive and offensive cyber operations, and actively defending our share of cyberspace, including NATO's own networks. It also means showing our strength through exercises such as Cyber Coalition, one of the largest cyber exercises in the world. Technically, it means building resilience across our societies. In particular, we need reliable and secure communication systems, including 5G networks. This means that we must avoid relying on equipment supplied by authoritarian regimes to build our digital backbone for the future. We have seen the results of relying on Russia for our energy supply. We should not repeat this mistake by relying on China to provide the technology for our critical networks. Indeed, we need to work with every level of the private sector to make our systems harder to damage, more resilient, and quicker to bounce back. And this brings me to my third point today, the private sector. As we have seen in Ukraine, private companies such as Microsoft, Amazon, and Starlink have become critical actors in their own right. They have responded to direct requests from Kiev for help, uploaded whole government departments to the cloud, and used satellite networks for secure communications. It is not possible to keep our nation safe without the private sector. So we need to talk, to plan, and exercise more together. I know there are some in also the private sector and private companies who think that cooperating with the military is somehow unethical. But there is nothing unethical about helping Ukraine defend its country. Nothing unethical about defending our own nations. And nothing unethical about defending our freedom. Without industry, there is no defense, no deterrence, and no security. So we need to get better at working together. That is why this conference is so important, because it brings together governments and the private sector to discuss and address how we can work more closely together. NATO is a unique transatlantic institution that brings together 31, soon 32 nations every single day. NATO is perfectly positioned to share information, to spread innovation, and to coordinate our collective defense in cyberspace. So, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a more dangerous world, and those dangers exist in the cyber world as much as in the physical world. Through NATO, we can work together to strengthen our own cybersecurity, build a secure cyberspace for all, and keep our 1 billion people safe. So thank you so much for joining us here today, and I wish you a productive conference. Thank you so much.